Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday evening session here in Denver. On Tonight, we're going to look at something about A Course in Miracles and how that fits into the New Age or not. And actually, this is all based on yesterday. The Foundation for A Course in Miracles sent out this letter from Ken, where back in the 1990s, he decided he was going to go to the Library of Congress and try to get them to not list A Course in Miracles under New Age stuff. And evidently, he was successful, whatever that means. And so I got to thinking about a couple of things. First of all, I was kind of surprised that the Library of Congress even had a New Age listing. So I went to the Library of Congress and I looked that up, and I couldn't find a New Age classification anywhere. I found religion, I found religion and the history of religion, but I couldn't find anything on the New Age. I even put in Library of Congress, New Age classification, couldn't find it for nothing. So I don't even know if they have it anymore. Probably do, I just couldn't find it. I tried for like an hour too, so. And the other thing that hit me was, because I was really curious how the Library of Congress described the New Age, how they described that classification, if they had one for the New Age, what that looked like. And based on that, how would that be different or the same compared to my own understanding of the content of the Course? You know, would I put the Course in Miracles under New Age in the Library of Congress, or in any kind of listing? Like if I owned a bookstore, would I do it there? And so that was one question. And then the other thing that hit me was, how do I describe the New Age? Because and I realized it was really all over the place. I mean, all of us baby boomers, most of us, except a few of us haven't, but most of us come through all kinds of New Age stuff before we ever got to the Course. And we pretty much get a handle by the time we get to the Course of how the Course is pretty fundamentally different after we study it for a few years than all the other stuff we learned. like and how it was different, and why it was different, and what that even meant to us personally. But it was all based on our own kind of personal history with our understanding and what we went through of the New Age. Like I remember in the late 60s, there was the Aquarian Age bookstore. The Aquarian Age bookstore, like the spooky bookstore. I was 18. I went in there one day. I wasn't sure whether I went to heaven or hell. It was all incensey and hippie. And I mean, it was like really a trip. It was like stepping into a whole new universe, not just a whole new world. But the Aquarian Age, like what that even meant, I didn't know what it meant. I can't remember what books I even looked at then.
I remember the same bookstore, Tim. You're talking about in LA?
No, this was in Baltimore.
Oh my God. Well, there was one in LA too, and it was spooky.
Yeah, so I mean, there was that. And then, you know, I got into the yoga, and then I got into, it was just like a whole series of things. Got into tarot cards, got into this, got into that, and just kept expanding. And so I would think that if we each had to write a definition of New Age based on our own personal history, we'd all come up with something maybe fundamentally in content the same, but all over the place in terms of, you know, our own experience. So what I did was I went to this was a trip. I just went and I typed in New Age on the internet, on Google search. And I looked, the first thing I came up with was this New Age Wikipedia definition. And it seemed fairly objective. It seemed like it was, it didn't seem like it was biased one way or another. It talked about going back to at least the late 1800s with Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society and how that kind of evolved up into the 1930s with somebody Bailey and the New Age, the New Thought movement. And anyway, a lot of them had the same kind of origin stories of where it came from. Most of them agreed, though, it really took off and flourished, the idea of the New Age movement in the 1970s. And it had a couple of common elements. One was there was sort of a, for lack of a better word, a holistic view of divinity. Like everybody had God in them. Everybody was sort of God. And we all kind of ran with that in all kinds of different ways. Another one was, I mean, it was definitely associated with communing with elementals, with angels, with archangels, with spirits, with UFOs. I didn't even know there were all these UFO religions back in the 1950s. Somehow I missed that. I would have been on board with that for sure. What's that? I was like, I had to look up UFO religion. I didn't even know there were such things. But then there was the whole ACIM movement in the 1930s. I was sort of aware of that, the Ascended Masters and all that stuff. That evolved eventually into Church Universal and Triumphant with all the Ascended Masters. So anyway, everybody's got their own idea, I think, of what the New Age is all about. And it's a very personal idea. So as I was reading this thing on New Age Wikipedia, I decided to look at it from a biblical point of view. So I went to a fundamentalist website, and it was called allaboutgod.org. Very fundamental, very Bible-based, very traditional Jesus-oriented. And I started reading on this allabout.org site about what the New Age is, and I realized it's saying a lot of the same stuff that I just previously read on the Wikipedia site. And then I went back to the Wikipedia site and I realized that it was word for word. Somehow allaboutgod.org had gotten their description of the New Age onto the Wikipedia site. I was like, how'd they do that? I sort of trusted Wikipedia until I saw that. I was like blown away. like obviously there's a lot of bias on the fundamentalist site. God, you should see the way they describe the Course of Miracles. I'm not even going to go into that. but somehow they got all their ideas about the New Age, they got it planted on Wikipedia like that was gospel truth. Yeah, it's like I'm going to be a little bit leery about anything I look up on Wikipedia again. And there was no claim that it came from, I mean, on the Wikipedia New Age definition, there was no claim it came from a fundamentalist website, much less the website itself. Word for word, like 8 paragraphs in a row of what the New Age was. Main definition. Like, really? Really? So anyway, it was kind of a romp through my own personal history with the New Age, what the internet thought it was, what the internet had in common. And then I was certainly wondering what Library of Congress, the way they were describing that Ken thought he actually had to go to them and ask them to not categorize the course under the heading of New Age. So I'm going to try this. See if this comes up. No, it's not working. Oh, did it come up? The letter? Did Ken's letter come up?
Yes, yes, okay. It's showing. Uh-huh.
Yes, it did. If you minimize the Zoom window and maximize the browser, and can zoom it in if you want.
I tried doing that, and you said it didn't change.
Oh, that changed. Oh, there we go.
It did change. It got bigger.
Yes.
Yes.
Now we need to zoom. Now we need to zoom that window in.
Like on your device, if you can, you mean?
No, no, on your machine.
Mine, yeah, I have no idea how to do that.
Is that a Mac?
Yeah.
Yes.
So just with the fingers, just yeah.
It's not a MacBook. And it's not an iPad.
So maybe the plus sign.
Maybe. Is it bigger now?
No.
No. Jennifer's shaking her head. Yes, it's getting.
Yeah. Well, the page is bigger, but the typeface.
Oh, it stayed the same.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
You
we
have to zoom it with your fingers, like this. Oop, where
I
am I?
don't have an iPad. It's not an iPad.
Oh,
It's
is it?
like,
Oh,
yeah.
I have a laptop, and I can't do that on my laptop either. I don't
Oh.
think.
I think John's saying there's a way to do it, but I have no idea. Anyway, if you just get the gist of it, if you get out your magnifying glass, if you have to. So, where am I? So back to Ken's letter. There were like 5 major points that he was going over in his letter. And let's see. I got way too many pages.
Tim, so you have Mac, yes?
Yes.
So if you do Command plus, it will zoom in.
Oh, Command plus?
Yes.
Ah. Very
Yeah,
good.
perfect.
Very good.
Yay. Right.
All right, you got it. You got it. Yay! Thanks. Thanks so much, John.
Command plus.
Good work, Tim. Yes. This is cool. I love it.
So, Lynn, you want to read the first couple paragraphs there?
Oh, I'd be happy to. You mean in the Kenneth statement?
Ken's letter, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So do you want me to read the part that's highlighted too?
Yes.
All right. Kenneth Wapnick has maintained over the years that A Course in Miracles is not a New Age spirituality, but rather has its intellectual roots in much earlier intellectual traditions, including the teachings of Plato, Neoplatonism, and the higher teachings of Gnosticism. The following are excerpts from a letter Kenneth had written to the Library of Congress sometime in the 1990s, requesting that they no longer classify the Course and Kenneth's books under the category New Age. Kenneth's efforts were successful. Very good.
And read the next 2 little paragraphs.
All right, and these are Kenneth's commentary. A Course in Miracles, in many crucial ways, is in sharp disagreement with New Age thinking, with many principles discussed in the book conflicting with many New Age principles. 5 examples of this kind of conflict are as follows. Number 1, the theory of A Course in Miracles is based on a non-dualistic metaphysics. It teaches that the physical universe, including the body, was not created by God, and in fact, came about as an attack on God. No New Age system would support this. They all teach just the opposite.
Any comments on that, Lynn?
Well, they all teach just the opposite for sure. You know, I was just making a few notes as you were talking, Tim, and I was thinking the thing that came to my mind that distinguishes the New Age from A Course in Miracles, say, is that in New Age you have many, 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 many disciplines, and you have many, 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 many teachers. In the Course in Miracles, you have one major thing that we have to learn, which is forgiveness, and we have one teacher. I mean, that's a profound distinction in itself. And, you know, it goes on from there. Everything has to be dualistic at that point. And the idea that the physical universe and the body was not created by God, I mean, the New Age has elevated the body to being, you know, the body, mind, spirit thing. It's all one thing, and that the body is spiritual. The body is made by God. So the distinction there is huge. Oh, I'm just grateful that Ken pursued this, and he actually got it recategorized, because people that are looking for a non-dual thought system usually are not going to find it when they're looking, you know, in the New Age material. So I'm really glad he got this clarified.
It's good. Yeah, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Jane, you want to read 2 and 3?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In almost all New Age systems, 2, A Course in Miracles does not support the thinking involved in prosperity consciousness, a prominent principle in New Age thought systems. 3, in almost all New Age systems, there is an overriding emphasis on people's positive experiences, with scant lip service paid to the overwhelming unconscious feelings of guilt shared by most people. A Course in Miracles teaches that there is only one problem in the world, and that is guilt. Therefore, it focuses primarily on our feelings of guilt, teaching us how to identify them and undo them.
Thoughts about
right
that,
on.
Jane?
Very
Any
true.
thoughts, Jane?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely true. I think that now there are things that were considered in the New Age, like even Mary Baker Eddy on some level was considered New Age, only way, way ahead of times in the early 1900s. And so were the Fillmores, because of their healing principles. And, you know, you can heal people and that type of thing through the mind. So on some level, they were considered New Age, although they weren't called New Age. They were called metaphysical movements. And a lot of people in those movements are now in the Course in Miracles, as a matter of fact, which is good, which is very nice. And obviously there are distinguishing factors between those, definitely. But I do think that nobody focuses on guilt, on learning how for us to let go of it, because it's not real, and have a true teacher that will do that through forgiveness for us. I don't know if anybody that's ever done that, any theology or course. And I've read thousands and thousands of it.
No, I know you have, Jane. Me too.
Yeah, you can see and all very, very enjoyable. But I do think the course goes back a long ways too, to some very, very outstanding, like Plato, like Ken talks about. So there's a lot of old, I would call those more philosophies though than theologies, that the course builds onto. Because Socrates wasn't a theologist, he was a philosopher.
So in number 2, do you think he's talking about, you know, that whatever vibe we're in, New Age speaking, whatever vibe we're in, we attract stuff? Like we attract good and bad stuff happening to us?
Yeah, the law of attraction is prosperity consciousness, that you can get what you want. I mean, that's prosperity consciousness in terms of the ego. You know, I can get whatever I want.
But also, if I'm in a bad place, I attract bad too. Like it's kind of blaming whatever happens to me on whatever kind of attitude I'm.
Well, I think it shifts there, because nobody would want to call that prosperity, would they?
No,
Well,
they called it in the, you know, like Mary Baker Eddy and Unity and all those, they called it error, the nature of error. And that's why they had all the affirmations, and, you know, you can undo so they really had dualism. They had,
Mhm.
and yes, you attract everything. It is definitely a law of attraction, which the Course does not have. Of course, people in the Course think it's there, which is not real healthy for the principle of the Course, of what the Course is teaching. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's a law of attraction on either side, good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that in all the things that I've been through, like Jane was saying, none of them ever, never emphasize, what does it say in the early pages of the text? The one thing we never look at or ask when we say, what is it for? We never look at guilt. Guilt was never one of the reasons we looked at why we're here, to express and project our guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like no other discipline ever did that. No other discipline ever took that thought and then applied it to all our relationships. Like, so all the relationships, the special ones, became a place to deposit our own guilt on somebody else. I mean, that was just went so beyond anything I had ever heard before. And anything I'd ever done. Yeah.
You know, in my relatively brief stint with the New Age, I had a few crystals, for example.
I bet you did.
Yeah. Only I used them as table decorations.
Me too.
I had an enormous crystal in the middle of the dining room table, and everyone, when we had dinner together, was like, whoa, you know. Anyway, so much for that period of time in my life. But you know what? A strange thing happened for me, and it wasn't very long into it, maybe a year into it. And I started to feel like I was playing a game with toys.
You were.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I was playing with things and having a good time, you know, with the crystals or that. But at some point, it just felt not enough. I mean, just plain not enough. You know, not enough. It wasn't even stupid or silly, you know, which I could have called it that. But it was more this nagging feeling inside that this is not it. This is not it. This is not enough. You know, just manipulating the figures in the dream is just plain not enough. And so, you know, the New Age was sort of a bridge to that, in a sense. So I certainly don't condemn it. And you know, it was opening our minds to other possibilities. It's just, it opened it to about billions of opportunities instead of there's only one opportunity. Wake up, you know, and that was the one I wanted.
Abby, you never did. Abby, you never did any of that New Age stuff, did you?
No. The most New Age that I got into was, you know, it made me think of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus. And, you know, and then people would talk about Abraham Hicks and such. And I thought, this isn't it. This just isn't it. And then crystals and stuff. I'm just too anchored in the earth, I think, or something.
Lynn has a few crystals if you want to try it.
I think I have 3 left. I could pass them on to you, Abby.
Thank you anyways.
All right.
Thanks, Abby. Molly, did you ever do New Agey stuff?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Law of attraction, I studied that. But I think the thing the thing that really stands out to me, I think it was, what was it, number 1, about that, that God didn't create the world or whatever. And I know that's not necessarily New Age, because I was more sunk into, growing up Catholic and, the Bible and all that too. And that was just, in certain ways, it was a shock, but it was also a relief, to think, that the world wasn't created by, God, or that it was more of us doing all of that. So I think that that's the thing that sort of reading all this, because I read this before too, was it just, that really sort of sunk in as a different turning point of what the Course in Miracles really meant. Because, if you think that God created this world, wow, there's so many negative and, things that just happen all the time. And it's kind of relief that that's not the case, So anyway, that's what stuck out with me.
So when Lynn and I were saying all that kind of stuff, and other Ken Wapnick people were too, did you think we were like demon seed? Did you think we were of Satan?
No, actually, it made so much more sense. That's what really struck with me about the Course and you guys and Ken Wapnick and all that too. It's just a relief not to think, because, growing up too, reading the Bible and all that too, it just didn't seem as truthful as the Course feels like it is to me now. I mean, I think things just ring so much more truthful by studying the Course and reading a lot of what Ken Wapnick says. It just is becoming so understanding more. I mean, I feel that. I don't know how else to describe it, but definitely that. So.
Got it. Right.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, good. You didn't think we were evil then when you first heard it.
Well, I can't say that loud, right? Later. Yeah.
All right. Jennifer, did you do New Agey stuff?
Yeah,
Oh.
all that. I have a lot of crystal. Yeah, I did a lot of meditation. And everything. Yeah, the whole thing.
Is that crystals I see on your bookshelf behind you?
No, I hide them. No, I hide
You
them.
hide them?
Yes. But there's still one big one right under my bed.
Oh.
The black one.
It's like Princess and the Pea, but it's Princess and the Crystal.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. Jennifer, where were you in the New Age? Were you in Hong Kong at that time, or were you living in Taiwan?
In Taiwan.
All right.
Doing the whole New Age thing. I was pregnant, actually.
All right.
Yeah. Since I was, it's about.
And so you did all the crazy things that Americans did in the New Age, supposedly? I mean,
I guess the New Age is kind of universal. I mean, it's everywhere.
right.
I mean, like the blue child thing, the
yes,
ascended masters,
mm-hmm.
yeah, all that.
Oh, that's great. So you didn't miss a thing, did you? That's great.
And I did the course in lights for 4 years, full 4 years of course in light.
Mm. Wow. I'm not sure I know that one. Wow.
I think I missed that one too.
Dang, I got to back up now.
Oh dear.
Thanks, Jennifer.
So great. Thank you, Jennifer.
John, didn't you tell me you just jumped right from being Catholic into the Course in Miracles like Abby did, sort of?
Yes, kind of. I just completely bypassed all the New Age thing. It always felt like a lot of mumbo jumbo. To be honest, I'm sorry. It didn't make any sense for me. It was like just wishful thinking. But I left the Catholic thinking very, very young, so it didn't make any sense for me as well. It took me a long time until I found the course, so I was kind of like lost for many years until I finally found the course. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thanks. Rosemary, tell us. This is like, come out. Tell us what happened.
I got like a delayed video here. I can't think of anything New Age I ever did. I went to psychics and mediums, and I followed astrology for decades, but that's about it.
Well, that's enough. that
Quite enough.
And all the things I was reading about New Age, that was definitely in most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, like it was really helpful for each of us along. I mean, we wouldn't be where we're at today if it wasn't for the multitude of dominoes that kept falling to get us to where we're at now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right on.
I know. Thanks, Rosemary. I know Bruce never did anything New Agey.
My wife and I actually started an entire organization. Well, we cloned one in the San Francisco Bay Area for the Northern California foothills called New Frontiers of the Gold Country, which was a clone of the New Frontiers group in the Bay Area. And we brought New Age speakers to the foothills Gold Country area once a month, give or take, and for about 9 years. And and then before that, I was steeped in just in anything that kind of made sense. But kind of like Molly, I think it was kind of like eventually it was like that refreshing understanding that if God didn't make this, then that explains so much of the disconnect. And it's just knowing that our Creator isn't as messed up and schizophrenic as we appear to be. That was a real relief.
That is so true, Bruce. That is so true. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So I certainly did the spiritual buffet line, the New Agey smorgasbord, and all the variants, or well, not all, but a generous smattering of all those. So yeah.
And as as we all went through, a lot of us went through all that stuff. A few summers ago, we did a seminar on common mistakes that course students make. I mean, all this stuff, the behavioral stuff, the level confusion. I mean, it's certainly gone on with a lot of New Age thought, a lot of New Age thinkers. But even within the course community, my experience as I traveled around the country was 95% of the course groups I ran into were still trying to incorporate all that New Age thinking into the course. In fact, sometimes they would get together for a course meeting. They wouldn't even open the book. They'd talk about something else. I mean, that was normal for years. For years, it was hard to get anybody even open the book, much less understand a page or even a paragraph without just reading on and pretending you knew what the heck it was talking about. I mean, there was so much like crazy course stuff that was avoiding everything possible that was contained in the course. And so I made a list. It was like 10 common mistakes we make as course students. And certainly as the Son of God wanting to believe it's separate, the first one, the underlying mistake that we all made, whether our course students or not, but we all made the mistake of taking the tiny mad idea of separation seriously. That's what got us into all kinds of trouble. That was our first giant big mistake, was the tiny mad idea of separation. And so that underlined all these 10 common mistakes that we began to make as course students right from the get-go. And the first one really was about level confusion. Everybody thought it was about behavior. Everything that any New Age thinker was doing was about behavior. Like, if I do this, I'll feel better. If I put this crystal under my bed, it's not a bad thing, but we really thought we would feel better, as in it would give us some semblance of peace. You know, and it's like taking an aspirin. Yeah, it works. You know, it will give us some peace for a while. You know, you probably feel like this nice warm glow under your bed, but it's not going to take away the guilt. If we don't address the guilt, and if the course is right, that the problem is we took the tiny mad idea of separation seriously, and then worse, we projected, we took our guilt for doing that and projected it on everybody else. If we don't deal with those two underlying themes of taking the tiny mad idea seriously and then projecting that guilt we felt for doing that on everybody, it's not going to change behaviorally, no matter what we do. If we don't ask for a different way to look at this basic bottom line premise that we are guilty, and now I believe you're guilty, because I don't want to look at my guilt. So it was always level confusion. That's the underlying problem that we all face, certainly as course students, and we all go running back to mixing that up all the time. Probably, at least now, it took a long time, like years, for most course groups to even admit what Lynn brought up in the first one, that the world was made as an attack on God. I'm not sure most course students even know that now. They sort of have some idea that the world is made up, like it's like Maya, it's like illusion. But I'm not quite sure they hear it was made as an attack on God. They don't hear that as the purpose. Because out of that purpose comes all the guilt. If we really believe we attack God, how could we not feel guilty? And then we're often running with needing to project that guilt on everybody and everything else. But then, as healthy egos, and thinking that we're trying to be good course students, we go, well, how many times did I not do the lesson right today? How many times did my ego take over and I yelled at somebody? I mean, we start counting up. It's like Santa Claus. We start keeping count of when we're a good course student and when we're a bad course student, like that makes any difference at all. It takes us a while to realize it's not about being a good course student. There is no good course student. There is no bad course student. There is no course student, period. That's where we're going with in this like awakening, is the student we think we are. We just ain't that. And what we are is already a done deal. We're all still one son of God, and it's got nothing to do with anything behavioral at all. So the primary thing of any ego-based approach to any religion, even the course, and we all did this as, ego-based course students, was to make it about behavior. Jesus came along, and then the Catholic Church got built on rituals and behavior, on eating the wafer and drinking the wine, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, all 7 sacraments are all based on behavior. So the first big mistake that underlies everything we do, quote unquote, wrong, if that's possible as a course student, is we go back to behavior and we pretend we didn't. What did I do? What did you do? It's always about that. What didn't you do? And then one of the really popular ones that we ran like crazy with, we take these sayings in the course like, I could see what my brother did as a call for love. We really ran with that one. It wasn't what I did. It wasn't my guilt. His guilt was just calling for love. It had nothing to do with me. I mean, we wouldn't even see it as anything wrong or bad or whatever when my brother's acting out if we really knew our brother was still one son of God with me. We wouldn't have to see and go, oh, I need to see this as a call for love, meaning it's my call for love. It ain't his. It's me calling to myself to wake up to love's a done deal, and whatever my brother's doing or not ain't going to affect me or him. So, I mean, we really wanted to put this whole call for love thing on our brother, as any good ego-based course student would want to do. And we still do that. I mean, we still go around saying, oh, he's just, somebody's being a jerk or, a dummy. We just say, oh, they're just calling for love. I mean, I still hear me saying that. It's like somehow, oh, that justifies their behavior. Like somehow they'll wake up one day. No, it's not them waking up that needs to wake up. It's me. It's my call for love. And in the beginning, I mean, the classic thing was, especially in New York, you were always asking the Holy Spirit for a parking place. I mean, that was normal. Hell, I still ask the Holy Spirit for a parking place. I don't care if it works or not. I'll do whatever I can to get that parking space because I'm always in a hurry. Oh, and forgiveness to destroy. How long did it take us for even to see that on the page as a course student? What does that mean? Forgiveness to destroy. What happened to good old-fashioned forgiveness, for God's sake? Oh, man. There's still so many course groups that use the workbook lessons as affirmations. They don't read the whole rest of the lesson. They just repeat the title of the lesson all day. Never deal with the underlying guilt. I am the home of peace and joy and happiness. And don't read the next paragraph that says, you really believe you're the home of evil, darkness, and sin. Yeah, I can go around all day long repeating, I am the home of peace and joy, and never deal with the guilt. Never deal with the underlying thought that I really believe I'm the home of evil, darkness, and sin. I mean, you got to kind of read the rest of the lesson to be able to get it and assimilate it and work with it. Probably, and just this idea, it was so normal for years not to realize that the Jesus of the Course was not the Jesus of the Bible, at least in most cases. Maybe one or two good things that he might have said in the Bible that he actually might have said it, but all of it was built on 4 different ego descriptions of whatever that particular biblical author wanted Jesus to be. I mean, for the most part, all the Gospels, all those 4 different Jesuses are pretty much ego-based. Jesus never threw anybody out of the temple. What temple? Why would he throw somebody out of the temple if he really believed there was no sin? I mean, the 2 thieves on the cross, this day you'll be in paradise, and this one's really, you're going to hell. What Jesus of the Course would say that to anybody? I mean, story after story in the Gospels is just horrific. It's horrific. It's taken the ego judgment and put it on poor Jesus and made him as crazy as we are. The Jesus of the Course is so fundamentally different in content, just like the Course is so fundamentally different in content than any other spiritual thing, I think, that certainly I've ever experienced, and I think that most of you ever experienced. Any thoughts, comments, whatever about any of that?
Well, I think we just constantly, or I do, have to constantly keep in mind that it's a very, very radical theology, and that we have thousands and thousands of years of conditioned thinking, no matter what the condition is. And that's just not going to go away just in, maybe not in this lifetime that we think we're in right now. And I think that part of that compassion in understanding that helps us look at our guilt in a more compassionate way, and understanding too that it's not real, that it is nothing that that Jesus would put on us. It's just a tough course, I think, in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very, very difficult for people. It was for me.
Yeah.
And the only teacher I had was Ken. But even with just Ken as my teacher, I didn't have any other teachers. And now there is a plethora of teachers out there, and a plethora of translations, which have really, in some ways, have, I don't know, I can't think of the word I'd like to use, but it has done a little bit of damage to the course as far as the pristineness of what the course has said. If you start messing with the course, that's when you get back into the New Age again. You get back into your old theological beliefs and think, oh, well, maybe, I just think it's a hard process. It's a difficult process, but it's a simple process once you get it, once you really understand it.
Jane, boy, I am so much with what Jane is saying, that this course isn't for everybody. It is definitely not for everybody. I mean, Jesus is really, really putting it out to us in his course. And he is saying, because this is what people don't like about the course, I'll tell you right now, the only way you can do this course is to be willing to look at guilt. It's the only way you can do this course. And if you had any idea how few are willing to take a look at guilt.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jane is right. I mean, it took me a long, long time, probably about as long as Jane, 30 years maybe. And it's like, what's guilt? What's guilt? I don't get it, I know I'm supposed to feel guilt, but I don't see it. I don't see it. We don't see it. We don't want to see it. But then it dawns on us one day that we're never going to see it in ourselves. We're going to see it in our brother. That's where his job is to show us our guilt. And our job is to look past it. My brother, I want to see past that. I want to learn to see past that. I want to learn to go beyond the body. And there we are. Jesus has got us. He's got us. He's got us, because now we understand the game. We understand what he's offering us. We understand what he means when he says, I need devoted teachers who share my aim of healing the mind. You got to really want to heal your mind. This isn't about playing in the dream with dream figures and toys, which is literally what I felt in the New Age. Like I was, just playing at making life meaningful for myself and trying to do it, on my terms, with my will, to make what many confuse the course with, the happy dream. All of us who read the course from the beginning, we thought the happy dream, it's finally going to happen in the world. I'm going to get what I want. The happy dream is getting what you want. And we were like, yay. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not, Jesus tells us. I need you as a learner, he says. I need you as a learner so I can teach you what I really want. So anyway, we have to look at guilt. We have to be willing, and we have no idea how that's going to come to us, but it's going to be shown to us when we're willing and ready to see it in our brothers. and we're going to see it there.
Yeah.
And then we're going to realize that it's nothing, but we're not going to, until we raise it up to see it, we're not going to be able to get through it and see beyond it. So this is just so wonderful. And Tim, thank you for doing this, for, sort of putting this contrast between the New Age, because many of us have still been sort of lingering in the New Age, in parts here and there. And then it's like, coming in and this is what the Course is saying. Like, let's do this thing that we're here to do. Let's do it.
Ken did this extraordinary little seminar, and it was to new people. He went up to San Francisco one day to Maria Young's place, and they put on a seminar for a lot of new people that were being exposed to the Course. And he went into a history of the Course it's called Freudian Vedanta. It's like 2 CDs.
Right.
And in this Freudian Vedanta, he went into the significance of Freud that most of us are familiar with, how important Freud's work was in terms of talking about the process of projection and this projecting of guilt onto other things, and what that meant, what that meant in terms of it became the foundation for the whole Course in Miracles. In that talk, though, he said that the Course in Miracles could not have taken place if Freud had not done his work on projection. But he also said in that if Jung had come along and done his job, whatever that job was, the Course of Miracles would not have needed to be written. In other words, Jung took Freud's work and kind of distorted it, and basically formed the basis for the whole New Age movement. If not the basis, certainly, a major root of where we all went with everything that Jung talked about in terms of archetypes and feeling good and all that stuff. I mean, it got all incorporated into all these New Age philosophies. Whether it was expressly founded on that or not, it was certainly a major part of the whole root process of every New Age thinking was what Jung developed. And I remember I was like shocked when Ken said if Jung had done what he was supposed to, we would have not needed Course in Miracles, which means he would have had to deal with the guilt.
How you doing?
Good.
Huh?
So, yeah. Hi, Sybil. We put you on mute. So, yeah, that was just like, it's a real mind-blowing thing. It was for me anyway. He talks about how the Course in Miracles is two of the major spiritual works of the 20th century, bar none. One was Freud's interpretation of dreams, which laid the foundation for this whole idea of projection. And the other one was the Course in Miracles. What do you do with all that guilt we projected?
And the problem is that so much of it is so buried. I mean, it's so repressed. And the beauty of the Course is, as you're studying the Course, it has to come forward. It will come up. It will definitely come up. It will come up in it, maybe not quickly, maybe very slowly, but it will come up if you are really practicing the principles of the Course. It just has to. It's certain. It's absolutely certain. And it's not comfortable either.
No, it's not. No. And it can be long and drawn out. Oh, dear. And it's okay. It's okay. There's no hurry here.
No.
One of the things I found, certainly eventually in the Course, by going to meetings and by studying the Course myself, and mostly by applying it, that my issues came to the surface. And I think that's true with anybody who's working. The other experience I've had in this lifetime where I found that to be true was in 12-step meetings. If I was applying the 12 steps and I was going to 12-step meetings, whatever I was sitting on that I didn't want to look at would come up in a meeting, would come up and be rubbed in my face. Oh yeah, I'm doing that too. In somebody's share, I would go, oh, I'm doing the same thing. And they admitted it and looked at it and moved some, through the process of connecting with a higher power, et cetera, moved beyond it. But I mean, it was like what Jane was saying, it will come to the surface if we apply this stuff every day, if we actually try it and practice it. Ken's real adamant in all of his writings that it was not enough to study the course. We actually had to try it. Imagine that.
What a great idea.
The introduction to the next, starting the new hundreds, the next 100 group of, that introduction is absolutely, that Ken wrote in Journey Through the Workbook, is absolutely phenomenal. I went back and read it again and again just this last week. And Ken really hits the nail on the head with that. And with what Jesus is trying to tell us about the workbook, and also about the diligence and the practice that we have to do.
Jane, could you tell us specifically where that is?
Sure.
Hey,
right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in volume 3 in Journey Through the Workbook. And it starts on, just one second here. I gotta find, I'll tell you what page it is. It's right at almost the very end of volume 3. And
so it's just beginning, what number lessons? 1010?
104.
110? What? Okay.
104 in the volume 3 in Journey Through the Workbook. And it's called Review 3 and Introduction. It's the introduction. It's right after lesson 110, like you said. Yeah.
Okay. After 110. Well, I'll tell you something so valuable. Don't miss reading introductions when they come up.
Oh, no.
They are powerful, and you need to read them in order to go forward with the lessons that follow, or you won't get what it's about.
Speaking of introductions, I wanted to look briefly at the introduction to chapter 21 in the text. It's on page 445, page 445 in the text. And this is one of the places where Ken early on used a few of these sentences in the introduction to express to all these. In fact, he did it a lot in a seminar he did in California to all these blossoming New Agers in the 1980s. It was called Seek Not to Change This Course. Seek not to change the Course in Miracles. But choose to change your mind about the Course. And he got that idea, putting it that way, in this introduction on page 445 to chapter 21. And it starts out, projection makes perception. And we know that. I mean, at this point in the game, we know that's an underlying theme. But when we apply it to the Course, it starts really beginning to sink into a whole new awareness of what the Course is what it's doing, what it is, and how the only thing that's standing in the way of me allowing it to do what it can do for me is me staying stuck in me thinking this is what the Course is saying. So projection makes perception, and instead of the world in line 2, the Course in Miracles you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. Meaning, am I reading the Course with the Holy Spirit, or am I reading the Course with the ego? If I'm reading the Course with the ego, I'm going to take the Course and make 10 plus 100 million other common mistakes that all Course students make when they're doing it with the ego. It's just a done deal. So the world you see is what you gave it. The Course you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. Meaning, I gave it to the ego, or I gave it to the Holy Spirit.
Oh, it's great.
It's not more than that. It's not less than that. The Course is our way back for us as course students if we want to apply it and look at it through the eyes of vision. Therefore, to us as course students, it is important. I mean, we can at least say that much. The Course is important. The Course is the witness to our state of mind, the outside picture of an inward condition, like everything is. Why would we expect the Course not to be the same thing? As a man thinketh, meaning, am I thinking with the ego or the Holy Spirit, so does he perceive. Therefore, seek not to change the Course, but choose to change your mind about the Course. Choose to change your mind. Choose a different teacher the way you read the Course. Perception is a result and not a cause, and that is why the order of difficulty in miracles is meaningless. If I think the order of difficulty in miracles is significant, I'm reading the Course with you-know-who. And I'm not reading it with you-know-who. Everything looked upon with the vision of the Holy Spirit, everything, including the Course, looked upon with vision is healed and holy. Nothing perceived without vision means anything. And where there is no meaning, there is chaos. So if I'm reading the Course from the ego point of view, I'm in a hurry, I'm not sitting with Jesus, I don't really want to hear what he's saying, but I don't want to admit that, I got something where I got to be, whatever it is, whatever excuses I'm making in that moment not to be with Jesus as I'm reading the Course, then it's just going to be chaos. It's just going to be a bunch of words on the page. That's why when I read the page and I go back and I try to remember what I read, it's gone. It was never there to begin with. I wasn't reading it with Jesus. Any comments or thoughts about that? I'm sure we never do that anymore as good course students, right?
Well, at this point forward, we begin to realize that we don't hear anything unless we're listening with the Holy Spirit. We don't see anything unless we're looking with the Holy Spirit. That we're just not seeing, and we're not hearing, and we're not present to what's really there, so we can be taught. So, I mean, yeah, it's a choice. It's a serious choice. What do we want?
Paragraph 2, line 6 addresses the choice. Paragraph 2, line 6, and you will see the witness to the choice you made.
Yeah, it's so easy.
How do I feel after I read that page by Jesus? What page? What did he say? I'm not sure I agree with that. And you will see the witness to the choice you made and learn from this to recognize which teacher you choose. The course you see but shows you how much joy you chose. The course you see but shows you how much joy you have allowed yourself to see in yourself and to accept as yours. And if this is the course's meaning, then the power to give it joy must lie within you. Who am I doing this with? What choice of teachers am I making? Ken had this, let's see if I can find it. This will be interesting.
Oh, just ask if one of us here are going to know.
So
what do you want? What is it? What is it?
And I'm just trying to share it, see if this works. Cancel. So do you see?
Yeah. Oh, yes, we do see it. Yes.
Uh-oh, I can't get it to do what. I can't get it to enlarge. Anyway, this was a thing that Ken wrote called Respecting the Magnitude of A Course in Miracles. So the two emphasis that Ken really lays out over and over again about the Course is its uniqueness and the magnitude of it. In Freudian Vedanta, he says this is the second greatest spiritual accomplishment of the 20th century is the Course in Miracles. So respecting the magnitude of A Course in Miracles, coming to respect it, coming to learn how influential it is to me now and how it will be in the seeming years to come. So in respecting the magnitude of A Course in Miracles, he says, A Course in Miracles provides one of the most important statements ever witnessed to by mankind. It teaches us that not only is the world illusory and therefore not created by God, but that the physical universe was indeed made as an attack on our Creator, everything we've been talking about. Thus, Jesus explains the motivation, the cause, the purpose. Jesus explains the motivation for the world's seeming existence, not to mention the purpose behind the individual life of each of us who believe we walk this earth. Understanding the Course's unique contribution to world spirituality has been the principal burden of all are called, while few choose to listen, has accented the ego's attempt to diffuse this powerful teaching. So it was a double book thing that Ken did way back early on. It's I think it's still available on the ACIM bookstore, but it's a double book. First one's called All Are Called, and it's about the uniqueness of the Course, and then few choose to listen gets into all the ways we trick ourselves into thinking we're good Course students, but probably not really. While few choose to listen has accented the ego's attempts to diffuse this powerful teaching. Fearful of the implications of what A Course in Miracles truly teaches, the ego has tried to present the Course in its own image and likeness, substituting the ego's littleness for the true magnitude of Jesus' vision. In fact, given the need of the ego to preserve itself by denying the truth that would extinguish its existence, it will probably take decades, if not centuries, not real cheery there, for this gift to be understood and fully integrated. Correcting student errors early on, correcting our own student errors early on in the Course's earthly life will help us ensure that such integration will take place and that the purity and power of its message will survive in us. So it's acknowledging these potential mistakes. It's looking at them, is looking at how we're always trying to mix behavior with perception. And, you know, that ego part of us that always wants to do that. Because its old survival is based on making it about behavior. The ego is all about behavior. The Jesus of the Bible is all about behavior. The Jesus of the Course is all about perception. Go ahead, Lynn. Lynn, did you say?
Well, yes. As I was really meditating on sort of the journey you were taking us on, I couldn't help but feel this as a cosmic rescue of the mind from illusions. I mean, it just felt so clear that, you know, this is a way out of dreaming. This is the way out of the dream. And we're all dreaming here. You know, we're dreaming night and day, 24 hours a day, we're dreaming. And this is clearly a way out. And what as Jane pointed out, a very, very radical thing this is.
Yeah, and you know, it's like, I mean, we talk about it like Jesus threw us this life preserver because we were drowning.
Yes.
But I mean, we really threw it to ourselves. I mean, we set this whole thing up. Jesus is us. Some part of us is Jesus. Some part of us is the Course, and then some part of us is this seeming decision maker that got thrown this life preserver. Sounds a little schizophrenic, but it all comes together in the end.
I hope so. I certainly hope so. I haven't got a clue.
As a closing meditation, I wanted to look at lesson, I believe it's 243. And it's on page 415, 415 in the workbook. And I'm probably I'll read through this, but I'll probably throw in the course in here the same way Ken threw in the course when he was talking about in the intro to chapter 21, replacing the world with the course and the way we see the course. So, I mean, basically it's another restatement of seek not to change the course, but seek to change your mind about the course.
Tim?
Yeah.
What is the lesson that I think Ken said, if you really knew this lesson and worked this lesson, that's the only lesson you would ever have to read or work with. What is that? What was that lesson? Do you remember?
Well, I remember he sort of said that about lesson 5 and 34.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. 5 being I'm never upset for the reason I think, and lesson 34 is basically I could have had a V8. I could have chose the Holy Spirit instead of
and Jane, I say that about lesson 109.
Oh,
it's the only one you need.
We all have our favorites.
We all have those that really move us to another place, and 109 does it for me. I rest in God.
Yes.
So the title of lesson 243 is Today I Will Judge Nothing That Occurs. Because it's not my job. I mean, I judge it all the time, but that's what gets me in trouble. I will be honest with myself today. I will not think I already know what the course means. What must remain beyond my present grasp of the course. I will not think I understand the whole course from bits of my perception, which are all that I can see. Today, I recognize that this is so. And so I am relieved of my judgments that I can't make anyway. Thus do I free myself and this course that I look upon, to be in peace as God created all of us. Father, today I leave this course in miracles free to be itself. I honor all its parts in which I am included. We all are one because each part of us contains your memory, and truth must shine in all of us as one. When we get quiet for a minute, I'll bring this out. And gently stay with Jesus. This was like a turning point. I found out how to share. not share vocally, but I found out how to share documents. Look out.
Oh, this is very cool.
Who knows what's going to happen next?
That's just a symbol.
There's more to come.
Don't
More to
ruin it for me.
Right. It's nice, though. I like it.
Thanks, everybody, for
Yeah.
partaking.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good morning, a good night. Wherever you are.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Sleep well wherever you are.